Hello and welcome to another Brawl video. This week my supporters on Patreon voted for Val Marooned Surveyor, which I've incorporated in this Naya-colored infinite life gain combo deck. So Val's a 2-mana 2/3 with Vigilance, saying whenever we discover, investigate, scry, surveil, or seek one or more cards, Val deals 1 damage to each opponent and we gain 1 life. I'm personally not playing any cards with a seek mechanic in this deck, so if you remove that ability from Val, it could easily be a paper card that's printed in a normal set, and Val happens to go infinite when paired with Trelasara, Moondancer, the 2-mana 2/2 that's essentially Najani's Pridemate, picking up a +1 counter whenever we gain life, but we also get to scry 1, and that's what we're interested in when pairing it with Val, because now whenever we gain life, we get to scry, which in turn deals 1 damage and gains 1 life with our commander, which in turn triggers our Moondancer again, rinse and repeat, and that's infinite damage and infinite life gain. So the entire deck is focused on assembling this 2-card combo, and we also of course need a way to gain life to kickstart it in the first place. So then taking a look at our deck breakdown, I've split it up into a few different categories, starting with fast mana, ways to generate a little bit of extra mana to help us maybe pay for the more expensive tutor effects, so any 1-drops that can make mana are great, and we also have some of the new talismans that can make a mana right away, so those can also join Arcane Signet as another good source of mana. Then we've got our life gain effects. These are usually creatures that say whenever another creature enters we gain 1 life, which is a great way to kickstart our Moondancer plus Surveyor combo. Then we've got our protection spells, and these are usually 1-mana instants, giving hexproof and indestructible, or 1-mana creatures that can tap or maybe sacrifice to do the same, so that's how we can protect our key creatures. And then we've got our tutor effects, and these can usually find our Moondancer, so if we already have Moondancer, they can also help us find a way to gain life, so those are also very useful, and we usually want to keep a hand that has at least 1 way to get the Moondancer into our hand before we can accept it. And then we've got our combo pieces, which include the Moondancer itself, but have also included the Heliod plus Scurry Oak combo as kind of a backup infinite combo, since they also synergize with all the life gain effects, so we can maybe pull that off as well. And then finally the miscellaneous section has a little bit of a graveyard recursion. In case the Moondancer does end up in the graveyard, we do need a way to get it back, and we can do so with Eternal Witness, which has been added recently through the Anthology expansion. Night of Autumn can also maybe blow up artifacts or enchantments that are being problematic, and Solitude can also maybe remove opposing creatures. So that's our plan in a nutshell. Now for the deep dive, starting with our mana acceleration. We've got 2 Moxen, Chrome Mox and Mox Amber, since we've got such a cheap legendary creature. Then at 1 mana there's Avis's Pilgrim, since we're also playing white. There's Birds of Paradise, Delighted Halfling can maybe make our legends uncounterable, Elvish Mystic and Helena Elves. Plenty of forests for Utopia Sprawl to enchant, and then Bloom Tender can reliably make 3 mana with our commander in play, and then we've got the on-color talismans, which can make a mana of their respective colors at the cost of 1 life. Of course, Arcane Signet is the best version of those, and then Catilda also plays well with our commander and the many other humans in the deck, so those can also make an extra mana. Then we've got our life gain effects, starting with Guide of Souls. Ajani's Welcome as an enchantment is maybe harder for the opponent to interact with, same with Case of the Uneaten Feast, which is a slightly better version. We've got the Hinterland Sanctifier, Veteran, Soul Warden also triggers off opposing creatures entering. Then there's Soulmender, which can just tap to gain a life, good enough to kickstart the combo, even if it doesn't help go infinite with Scurry Oak and Heliod. Then there's a Minister, which is slightly upgraded Soulmender. And then at 2 mana there's the Conjure, can also maybe activate it to flicker stuff, the Orator and Life Creed Duo, and then Daxos is actually pretty relevant as a legendary creature, since some of our tutor effects can only find legends, so we can still get a life gain effect if we're missing it. And then the Innkeeper as a green creature also relevant, since we have Greenstone's Zenith, for instance, that can only find green creatures, so then we can still get a life gain effect, and it also makes a treasure when it enters, so it essentially costs us 1 mana. And then our protection creatures start with Giver of Runes, as well as the original Mother of Runes, which inspired it, so this has finally been added to Arena through the Anthology expansion, can also protect itself, which is a big upside over Giver of Runes. Then we've got our Selfless Savior, which can sacrifice to make 1 creature indestructible. There's Skrelv, which is pretty similar to the other protection creatures. And then we also have the Sylvan Safekeeper, which can sacrifice a land to give 1 of our creatures Shroud until end of turn. And then we also have plenty of instants that can protect our key threats with God's Willing. There's Lauren's Escape, can also even target our artifacts with it. Shard Mage's Rescue will give a permanent +1/+1 bonus. And then there's Defend the Rider. We also have Royal Treatment, giving Ward 1 going forward, as well as Snakeskin Veil giving a counter. And Tamiyo's Safekeeping also gains 2 life. Then we've got our tutor effects, starting with Sylvan Tutor, just 1 mana, but it does put the creature on top of our deck, so our opponent will see it coming and will need to wait another turn before we can draw it. There's Fauna Shaman, which can discard a creature in order to tutor up another one. There's Recruiter of the Guard, which can find creatures with toughness 2 or less, so it can still find our Moondancer, but can even find our Solitude if we need some creature removal. Then a Search for Glory can find a Snow permanent, a legendary card, or a Saga, and then put it in hand. We even have snow-covered basics in this deck, so we can occasionally gain some life with it, or maybe find them with Search for Glory. Then there's the Ranger Captain. This can only get 1-drops, so it doesn't get our Moondancer, but it can still get one of the protection creatures or life gain effects, and we can also sacrifice it, and then our opponent is unable to cast non-creature spells this turn, so that can also maybe prevent them from casting a counter spell or instant speed removal. The Seriema can also find any legendary creature when it enters. We've got the Eldritch Evolution, need to sacrifice a creature, but then we can tutor one up and put it in play, even if it's a bit more expensive. The Last Alliance can find a legendary creature on the first 2 chapters, so we can both get a Daxos and a Moondancer, or maybe get a Heliod if we're going for the Scurry Oak combo. The Gearhulk can only get 1 mana creatures, enchantments, or artifacts, so it can still get most of our life gain effects, even get a protection aura like Shard Mage's Rescue, so it's still pretty versatile. We've got the Green Sun's Zenith, can only tutor up green creatures, but it is the cheapest one of these effects, so it can still get our Moondancer or Scurry Oak, for instance. And then the slightly more expensive Finale of Devastation, unlikely to cast it for X equals 10 or more, but can also go through the graveyard to find a creature, so it does have that upside. And then there's Invasion of Ikoria, Nature's Rhythm can maybe harmonize it, and Court of Calling has Convoke, so we can tap some of our other creatures to help pay for it, and can even search up a creature at instant speed, which can also come in handy. And then since we're in the Naya colors, we also get to play with Rocco, so that's another way to tutor up any creature. And then we've got our combo pieces, with Moondancer being the most important one, but we also have the Heliod plus Scurry Oak combo as kind of a backup plan. Heliod's still very good with all the other life gain effects in case we need to win the fair way. And then of course Scurry Oak evolving and getting additional +1 counters to make squirrels is how we can go infinite with Heliod and any of our life gain effects that trigger upon creatures entering the battlefield. And then our miscellaneous section includes Savine's Reclamation, which is a great card that I've been trying to include in more decks, but finally found a great home for it here, as it can return a permanent with mana value 3 or less from our graveyard to the battlefield, so it can get back any of our combo pieces, but can even use it as a form of a ramp by getting a fetch land back out of the graveyard, and we can flash it back. And then there's Eternal Witness as a creature we can maybe tutor up to get back something from the graveyard. Night of Autumn in case we need to blow up an artifact or enchantment, but it can also gain life, so it can technically kickstart the combo. And then Solitude as a life-linking creature that we can also maybe tutor up if we need to get rid of a problematic creature on the opponent's side. And then the mana base is pretty streamlined, no real utility lands unless you count the fetch lands and surveil lands, which can also maybe give us some card selection, and then Boseiju in case we need to deal with maybe an aura that's messing up some of our creatures. Otherwise, plenty of snow-covered basics we can fetch up, which can also synergize with our Search for Glory. So yeah, that's our deck. Now let's jump into some games and see how the deck does. Okay, we're on the draw, facing Marchesa. So Grixis Crimes, so that's about as much interaction as you can expect to face. So if we can pull this off, I'll be pretty happy, although it's not going to be easy. Our hand does have pretty much all the pieces we need, including maybe some protection. But no 1-mana Accelerant, so we're a little slow out of the gates. Draw our own Mox Amber. So just gonna get a Surveil land here. Probably wants to be green for Eldritch Evolution. Second color, less important. Right, the Lootmonger hopefully doesn't steal our Moondancer randomly. Discarding a Jwari Disruption. With Mox Amber we get to keep up Shard Mage's Rescue, so that could help. And don't need a Portico. Alright, we've got our life gain effect, ×2 now. Yeah, I guess we go for Catilda into a Minister, just to make use of all our extra mana. And these are all human, so they also make mana with Catilda. So then next turn, technically I could win the game. Play Val and then Evolution for Moondancer, activate Minister. So hopefully they just tap out for Marchesa. Lootmonger is not a werewolf, just double checking. And a Green Suns for 0 just to make a treasure. Of course no green creatures. And we drew the Moondancer. So opponent has only 1 mana to represent interaction, and I have a Shard Mage's Rescue. So we should have most angles covered. Play Val, make sure we have the right colors here to play Moondancer, and keep up Shard Mage's Rescue. That looks fine. Activate Minister. Opponent says good game, so yeah, I assume that's game over on turn 3 already. If we hadn't drawn Moondancer, then I could have still evolutioned for the win, but we wouldn't have been able to keep up Shard Mage's Rescue then. So this had its advantages. Yep, didn't end up facing any real disruption from our opponent. But with evolution, the redundant life gain effects and the Shard Mage's Rescue, we had most angles covered. And yeah, still impressive on turn 3 here. Opponent sticking around to see their life total fall. But there isn't anything we can mess up, just gotta spam spacebar or click the big orange button. Alright, one more will do it. And there we go. Turn 3 kill. On to the next one. Alright, we're on the draw, facing Tannuk, a red-green landfall. So always has the potential to be a strip mine deck. This hand's a little slow, but it has several tutors, so we can eventually assemble the combo. But in this matchup against red-green on the draw, we might need something a little faster. Yeah, I don't think I can keep. Alright, this is a slight improvement. Reclamation and Witness are a bit redundant, but at least we have a turn 2 Catilda for ramp with a few more humans to go with it. Turn 1 Grazer. And starting town, so I can just fetch a Surveil land, green-white. So then Seriema can get Moondancer, Captain can get like a Soul Warden to gain life, as well as maybe a way to protect our key creatures if we find some life gain in the meantime. Our opponent's pretty far ahead of mana. So we'll get a Portico. And then a Verge seems fine. Can probably use a 4th land. Eternal Witness also human, could even get back our fetch land if we want. Same with the Reclamation. So I guess that's a form of ramping as well. Opponent casts Invasion. Important to note that starting town still enters untapped even if we already have 3 lands in play. Just cares about which turn it is in the game. So on the flip side, if it's turn 4 and you've missed a land drop, it will also enter tapped. Opponent has a lot of mana, so we might get overpowered soon. Alright, so I'm not hating the Reclamation back a lands thing. And then I could still play my commander. Any merit to playing a Fauna Shaman? Doesn't seem needed. Although it could also be a way to get a life gain effect. But Val, being a human, also taps for mana with Catilda, so it has its advantages. And there's Tannuk. So that can draw them an extra card thanks to the fetch land. The Ranger Captain sacrificing itself could also maybe stop instant speed interaction on the turn where we're planning to combo off. And now Skewed Swarm can help them go wide, but it doesn't stop our combo. So that's all fine. Sylvan Tutor I may not need. So this turn I have 6-7 mana. So Ranger Captain gets like a Soul Warden is 4. Then I can still play Siriema. Yeah, that seems like a fine start. And then I'll leave white mana available. Soul Warden probably gonna gain us the most life. Otherwise, like a Safekeeper could also protect our creatures right now, even if it's summoning sick. Or a Selfless Savior, but yeah, we need some life gain. And Soul Warden also triggers off Skewed Swarm, so that seems pretty decent here. Play Soul Warden, and then we haven't played land yet. Sylvan Tutor puts the card on top. If we could put it in hand, we could win right now. But I'll go for a Siriema. And get Moondancer. And then I could start stationing, I suppose. Do we sack Ranger Captain in their upkeep? I don't think that's necessary. Because then I can still cast instants in my turn. And I don't think we're losing this turn to a Skewed Swarm. Could lose to a Craterhoof Behemoth, which the Ranger Captain doesn't stop. So they're free to transform the invasion. And then between Reclamation and Witness, we've got plenty of Graveyard Recursion. Green Warden is acceptable. Can get back a fetch land. Trigger Tannuk multiple times, same with the Skewed Swarm. But the Soul Warden should keep us alive pretty easily. Could make the argument that sacking Ranger Captain is fine, because I can fully station the Siriema, but then they could still take out my non-legendary Soul Warden at instant speed. So that all happens. We're both at 23. And our opponent explodes. Yeah, they know the infinite combo is incoming, and they may not have drawn a way to stop it. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the play, facing Saruman as per control. We have Heliod, so with Scurry Oak and Veteran we could go infinite, but we do not have a tutor effect as a problem. So this still feels like a mulligan, even though knights can also maybe blow up an artifact or enchantment. And this one has ramp, protection, life gain, still no tutor. So, yeah, I think we're still going to 6. Even though Snakeskin Veil is helpful, this hand's still weak to a board wipe, which Giver and Veil don't protect against. Alright, we've got our tutors, life gain, so we've got a keeper, and then I don't have a forest for Utopia Sprawl, even though I would have liked the extra ramp. So turn 1, maybe start with Guide of Souls, don't expect the opponent to play many creatures. Turn 2, probably play Val, and then if we draw a third land, I could Green Suns for 2, get Moondancer, and go Infinite. Alright, and Jenny's Welcome instead. I think we still try and go for it. An untapped land is not much to ask for. Opponent might just play some 2-mana Signet. They do not Unable to Scream. Shuts down our commander, so now I need to first tutor a way to destroy it. And now Inquisition can maybe take something away. Alright, that was a lot of interaction for just 2 mana. So it's not going to be as easy as I would have hoped. Siriama's gone, we did draw the land. So I can Green Suns for Moondancer, and then still gain life and Scry. Or just asking the opponent to remove it. What's the alternative? Just go Soul Warden after playing a Janny's Welcome. And gain some more life, and then hope for the best. If they have another discard spell, we lose the Green Suns. But yeah, removal on Moondancer is somewhat effective. I think I still go for it here. Just because the Scry alone is valuable. So this would have been infinite without Unable to Scream. Now Boseiju gives us a way to answer it. So I'll try to keep it. And then, yeah, again, hope our opponent doesn't have any removal. Could channel Boseiju, and then Soul Warden can kick off the combo. Boseiju not something they can counter. And our opponent's going to pass a turn. Alright, so I guess what I can do is cast Soul Warden in response to the Guide of Souls trigger, channel Boseiju. And then we can still go Infinites. I guess it would make sense to play Janny's Welcome first. And thanks to our legend, we can still do everything else. Now they might destroy Moondancer, and then our plan kind of falls apart. Mana Drain, I guess that works too. They only get 1 mana out of it at least. So I'm not going to channel Boseiju quite yet. So now I just need to draw any creature really to be able to combo. Opponent's gonna opt. Maybe trying to hit her land drop. Asper Sentinel I don't care about. And Undercity Plunder, making me discard a card. Alright. Blow up your enchantments. They get a land. And I'm just hoping to draw any creature I can cast, which is most of my creatures. Alright, they still found a land, so they could still have 1 mana removal, I guess. Solitude. That's one of the maybe 2 creatures I cannot cast, so that's pretty comical. Alright, attack. And now we're probably going to see a board wipe. Well, at least we can eventually recast him. Back to the command zone. There's no real upside. And Night of Autumn, so had we drawn that a turn sooner, we win the game instead. Okay, so where do we start? I guess Guide of Souls. Can still evoke Solitude, but I'm not going to be able to pay the ward. Now Shieldreds. Let's see. Yeah, I guess there's no way I can sack the Solitude to the trigger. I mean, we have an Ajani's Welcome, so we don't really care about Shieldred. Unless it were to transform, which they're pretty far from doing. Goodbye, Guide of Souls. Found a Talisman. That's +1 mana at least. Could have also kept it to answer Saruman. So we've got a long and slow road ahead of us. Opponent's still keeping up mana as opposed to playing their commander for a Cruelty of Gix. We'll see which chapter they start from. Chapter 1, then we may as well... I guess we could let them take the knight, otherwise I get to destroy Cruelty if they take Solitude. Or I can just exile Shieldred, and then next turn they get to tutor whatever they want. Yeah, that's gonna be pretty ugly. But if they just take the knight, leave me with Solitude, that's also not very useful for me. But yeah, the chapter 2 is the biggest problem here. Probably start by playing Val, so they can't instantly destroy the Moondancer. And then hope they tap out, but I don't see why they would. And Liliana might have been what they tutored up. So Val now goes to the command zone, costs 4, since we get to remove the perpetual effect. So now I can play Moondancer, keep up Loran's Escape, or Val might be fine as well. And then next turn there's still a chance we can combo. Although I suppose Cruelty can also reanimate my Solitude. So then I'm already forced to Loran's Escape. Yep. Don't know if it's worth it. But technically, if they don't have any interaction left, we could win next turn. Whereas if I let this resolve, I get to keep Loran's Escape to maybe protect the Moondancer, which is more valuable. But then Val's gonna cost 6. So then I would need to draw land, have them not have any interaction or no discard effect. So this might be my last chance. Alright, bottom of the land. Hope to draw into another protection spell, pretty much.
Yours will be a fate worse than undeath.
We actually did, so unless they have a counter, we might still get there. They could have countered the Loran's Escape and didn't. Does our opponent realize this is an infinite combo? Maybe they don't. I guess I'll keep scrying to the bottom to find useful cards in case they can blow up the combo somehow. They can always redraw with Mind Stone. Opponent's gonna seek new knowledge, leaving more mana untapped. Well, this has been a very close game either way. And our opponent explodes. Wow, can't believe we still got there. On to the next one. Alright, we're on the play, facing Vivi, so it's not going to be an easy matchup, especially when our deck doesn't have many ways to remove it. So our best bet is just to have a fast opening hand. The Mystic helps, and we have life gain and multiple ways to protect, but no way to find our Moondancer, which is pretty important. And I don't think I want to just keep and hope to draw into one. We've got our Tutor, life gain, ramp. This hand's great. Although we are missing some way to protect our creatures this time, other than Ranger Captain, which I guess could also come in handy. Alright, Talisman gives us more ramp. So I'm thinking Talisman into Innkeeper. Keep Boseiju in case it needs to blow up some important artifact or enchantment. The 1 damage probably doesn't matter. And then next turn, if I play Val, I can Tutor Moondancer, but I'll still be a mana short of casting it. So we're getting close. Avacyn's Pilgrim. Maybe this is a Ranger Captain sort of turn. See if they want to fight over it. And then I can still play Val afterwards. That resolves. So which 1-drop do I want to get? I can get Mother of Runes, although it's not going to be active until next turn. Could get probably like a Selfless Savior, which is useful immediately and can also protect from a sweeper, whereas a Sylvan Safekeeper only protects against spot removal. Halfling to play around a counterspell, also an option, so next turn I can play an uncounterable Val. I think I like the Savior here, as it's the most versatile. So I can play that first, and then maybe just play Pilgrim this turn. Can always use Ranger Captain to prevent them from casting instants and sorceries. Opponent's gonna braid the Ranger Captain. That's fine. I guess we'll sacrifice it, and then opponent could still have some board wipe next turn, and then I can only save 1 creature. I think I still play the Pilgrim. And then Innkeeper would be the most valuable. And then Search for Glory. Play Val, play Moondancer. I would have the mana to do everything. So yeah, if they don't have any free interaction, we should get there. But they might have some 0 mana spells to put counters on Vivi, which in turn can maybe cast some interaction. So, Savior to the rescue. And then now, hope they're out of spells. Okay. Search for Glory. Make sure I still have the right colors to cast my spells. Get Moondancer. Play Moondancer. And then, yeah, it doesn't matter too much what we keep on top. Play Val. No interaction. They technically could have still had a Pact of Negation and paid for it using Vivi, or like a Subtlety. But Pact is maybe more likely in a Vivi deck, and yeah, there we go. Managed to combo off on turn 4. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the draw, facing Ulalek, 5-color Eldrazi. So our hand's got redundant life gain effects, some ramp, protection. We do not have a tutor for Trelasara, so maybe this is still a mulligan. I don't expect a ton of interaction out of the Eldrazi deck, so don't really need to prioritize the protection. We have life gain, we have ramp, can find another 1-drop, but cannot get Moon Dancer this way. So I think we mulligan again. Alright, we've got our Search for Glory now, so I'm gonna keep. And then I don't think we need Eternal Witness all that badly. Could maybe use a Bloom Tender for extra mana. So now we have Reclamation to also maybe recur something from the graveyard. So I can get a dual land, could also get a basic forest, play Pilgrim, and then next turn I guess I still need a green source to play Utopia Sprawl. Maybe Stomping Ground makes sense. And then wait on playing Sprawl when we can immediately tap it for 2 mana. Signet also helpful. So let's say we fetch a forest. Play Signets. And then I could just play Bloom Tender. Or I can Utopia Sprawl into Bloom Tender, that's even better. And then now name white. Okay, so that's a lot of mana on turn 2. So next turn, can we combo off? If I play Val, Bloom Tender makes 3 mana. So then I can assemble everything except we're still missing a life gain effect. So that's what we lost by mulliganing a bunch. But the life gain effects are easier to find than the Moon Dancer itself. So our opponent off to a slower start. But they can play all 5 colors, so it's hard to necessarily predict what's coming. Opponent also has double blue up, so they could have a mana drain for all we know. So we'll see if they want to counter my commander. They do not. Yeah, let's search for Glory. And then I think we still go for Moon Dancer. Could also get the War of the Last Alliance, I guess. And that can get both Moon Dancer as well as a way to gain life on the following turn. So that might be better. So our life gain effect would be Daxos. Can maybe start there and then get Moon Dancer next turn. Kinda depends whether they have a Thought-Knot Seer to exile it, because that's something I cannot recur with a Reclamation. But if they blow up the enchantment, I might regret not getting the Moon Dancer first. Alright, now Ugin's Labyrinth without imprinting anything, so they still only have 4 mana. And the Connections is fine. So they might be dead here, unless they've got another interactive spell, like a Dismember comes to mind. But then I also have Reclamation for recursion. So get Moon Dancer. Daxos first. Play Moon Dancer. And that's an infinite combo. Gain a life. Get to Scry. Trigger Val, which in turn gains another life and deals a damage. Rinse and repeat. And if they blow up any of my combo pieces, we still have Reclamation to get them back. And yeah, our opponent scoops it up. On to the next one. Alright, we're on the draw, facing the Worldseed, so kind of a landfall sacrifice deck. Could be a strip mine deck, in which case this hand might be a little slow without any accelerants, but we could technically combo turn 4 between life gain, Val, and then invasion get Moondancer, or we could win with Scurry Oak plus Heliod. So we've got a few approaches, but for now we'll just play the Sanctifier. Now the Kami puts in a Rockfall Veil, and we drew the Moondancer. Well, that's certainly convenient. So now we could win on turn 3. So, Stomping Ground, play Val, next turn play Moondancer, win the game. Doesn't have to be more complicated. Could maybe see a discard spell take it away. Safekeeper, a way to sacrifice a bunch of lands. And our opponent does have 3 mana up for interaction, but we even drew the rescue. So now we also have spot removal covered. So yeah, we'll see what happens. But this is technically lethal on turn 3 with a mana to spare. If they have an Edict effect, we can sack the Sanctifier, which we no longer need, and our opponent scoops it up onto the next one. Okay, we're on the play, facing Nahiri, so red-white equipment. We have some ramp, multiple ways to tutor, so yeah, this seems like a fine hand. Reclamation in case any of our pieces gets destroyed. Wouldn't mind drawing into a life gain effect, so we don't need to tutor for it, but opponent already has turn 1 swords. So that all slows down a bit. Can't get the elves back with Reclamation now either. And Instructor is next. So this turn could go Skrelv plus Val, or Val keep up Loran's Escape, or Seriema tutor for Moondancer already. Or maybe get Daxos as a life gain effect. Got a few options. Yeah, I guess I don't mind Daxos first. And then we can maybe court for Moondancer at instant speed. The other way around doesn't kickstart the combo, since Daxos needs to be in play already in order to gain life. And then we'll have a decent amount of devotion, so Daxos can also maybe block. Now any of these equipment decks gets to play with all of the swords now that have been added in the Anthology expansion. So curious to see if our opponents are running any of them. Alright, opponent goes for a Stormseeker for haste. We did let them find a card from the spellbook at no real drawback, so that's where playing an extra blocker might have been useful. Now play Garden, play Daxos, which does not let me keep up. Loran's Escape is the problem. Versus Val, then I do get to keep up Loran's Escape, or I can play Skrelv. Yeah, maybe going Val here is fine. And kind of hope they try and remove it. Not gonna bother stationing since I want a blocker back for the Instructor. Alright, Chainsaw's fine, so if they target Val, we've got an answer, and we also get to scry to maybe find something else. Savior doesn't seem needed. With Reclamation we already have a way to buy back a combo piece, and we've got Skrelv for protection if we can finally deploy it. So no attack from our opponents. So we're getting pretty close to the combo with Daxos. I can still court for 2, so that would do it. So yeah, I don't think we need to wait. Opponent doesn't seem to have any interaction. Get Moondancer. Combo assembled. And yeah, doesn't matter too much what we scry here. I'll maybe bottom a few times just to make sure they don't have any interaction. Alright, fine, I'll keep the Savior on top, and our opponent scoops it up. On to the next one. Alright, we're on the draw. Up against Rona, blue-black legends. Well, hopefully they don't have a ton of discard or counter spells, although that's usually blue-black specialty. Removal spells we can beat with a Safekeeper potentially, and we have Moondancer in hand, so if it doesn't get discarded, we could win very quickly. Opponent's got the Thoughtseize, so takes the finale. Well, now I could also go for Veteran, but either way, we should be able to win around turn 3. Because yeah, Innkeeper is basically 1 mana thanks to the treasure. So I think I would rather have the Safekeeper in play first. Now play Rona. Alright, can Utopia Sprawl first, and then, let's see, maybe start with Val, and then next turn go Innkeeper plus Moondancer, or I could Moondancer first, because I can protect it with a Safekeeper, whereas I can't protect it from another discard spell. Name white, play Moondancer. Yeah, and then no matter which discard spell they play, I'll still be able to combo next turn. So we'll see if this works. Opponent's gonna Baleful Mastery, so then I'm forced to sack a land. But I could still get there. And our opponent's now tapped out, so another turn 3 incoming. Chromox doesn't hurt, but I don't even need it. Do want to make sure to get a red source, or with Innkeeper we can also fix our colors. So it doesn't matter too much. They could still have a free counter spell technically. But yeah, there we go. Turn 3. Infinite combo. Definitely helps when you draw the Moondancer, but yeah, we also had the finale, so would not have taken much more time to assemble it. Alright, so we get to see this Naya combo deck in action. The deck's maybe a little bit one-dimensional, always trying to do the same thing, but it's definitely fine-tuned to accomplish that goal pretty consistently. So if you're just looking for a deck to get some fast daily wins that maybe casts a lot of creature spells, this might be a deck for you, but it's maybe not the most interesting long-term, so you might get bored of it more than other decks. So yeah, that's going to do it for today's gameplay. I want to thank you for watching, hope you enjoyed, and as always, have a nice day.